It's the most read progressive blog. I'll say that.
There you go. I think it's the most read.
The conservative ones, I don't keep track of their statistics, but you never know.
You never know. I think it's great, and it's a must read for all Democrats all across the Commonwealth. And you do such a great job of covering all the races all across the Commonwealth. How did you start with this blog? Tell me.
Well, just a quick story is I got involved with Virginia politics back in 2005, actually. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I was very frustrated that John Kerry had lost. This is like ancient history now, but John Kerry had lost to George W. Bush, and I was trying to brainstorm of things I could possibly do to get politically involved and engaged. And I was like, wait a minute, Virginia has elections every year. And in fact, they had elections in 2005, which was the upcoming year for governor, lieutenant governor. That was the gubernatorial election year, plus the whole House of Delegates. So I started a blog called Raising Cain, which was like a play on to raise Tim Kaine to the governor's mansion and then to sort of stir things up, raise Cain. And so I've been basically started that blog and then got heavily involved with that. I was still working for the federal government at the time, but I was doing that on my own free time. And then the next year I got into I co-founded the Draft James Web movement, so I got heavily involved with that, ended up working for the web campaign. I left the government at that point. And then basically I've stayed involved with Virginia politics with either that blog and then Raising Cain transitioned into Blue Virginia over time, but because I didn't want it to just be about Cain. This is about turning Virginia blue.
Right.
It's not just about electing. Obviously, he wasn't governor anymore after, 4 years, so move on. But, although, certainly very happy with him as a U.S. Senator. But anyway, so I've stayed involved with the Virginia political scene, and Blue Virginia's been, pretty successful. I think we're working as hard as we can. It's not just me. I mean, there are many others who contribute to the blog.
Absolutely.
And I strongly encourage that. I'd like to get contributors from all over the state, different backgrounds, different genders, race, ethnicity, every background. That's great,
That's great.
From a Democratic perspective, yeah. So.
One thing that we all go to you for, of course, is the news and the breaking news and the insight that goes on. And one thing I do like about your blog is it is progressive and it is for Democrats, but you don't really do it in a nasty way. I kind of get tired. I think we're all getting a little bit tired of the nastiness that goes on in politics a lot. And frankly, and I want to come to this towards the end, local politics is more nasty in some ways than other politics.
That's the worst.
It really is. It really
local
is.
Politics and intra-party stuff. Particularly, it's crazy.
Exactly. So you're really good at prognosticating. You take, people from across the Commonwealth and their ideas and experts and people on the ground, and you kind of pull together your list. So what I'd like to talk a little bit about is the primaries coming up. It's what? 30?
Yeah, just 26 days, I think.
26 days? Yeah, I was trying to look at my calendar. Something like that. So it's close. It's getting really close.
It's very close, yeah. It'll be 3 weeks on Tuesday, so whatever.
Yeah, I'd like you to kind of pick the top 3 races that you think, if there are chances in the primary of either changing the incumbents or a surprise win in the primary and open seats.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe start on the Senate side. The 10th Senate district, which is in the Richmond area, that's a district that went 60% for Tim Kaine, yet is held by a Republican named Glenn Sturdivant. He won 4 years ago. So that's his first term. He was first elected in 2015. That's a district we should definitely win, and there is a contested Democratic primary there, so that one we'll see who ends up winning. There are 3 candidates running for, I believe it's 3 now, running for that Senate district. There's I don't know if you want to know their names, but Eileen Bedell, Ghazala Hashmi, and Zachary Brown are the 3 candidates. I think it's going to come down to Bedell and Hashmi. They seem to be the 2 front runners, and I really don't know which one's going to win. I think that could be very close.
Eileen Bedell might have a little bit of an advantage, do you think, because she's run before?
I mean, she's run before, yeah. That's definitely could help her. She was also endorsed by Abigail Spanberger. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, Hashmi is impressive. I've endorsed her. I don't know how much that matters, but But anyway,
well, she called me, and I was quite impressed with her as well.
Yeah, no, she is very impressive, I think, and she's gotten a lot of other endorsements. I believe she was just endorsed by NARAL, and she's been endorsed by a lot of different groups, progressive groups and others. So we'll see. I don't know. She's running a very strong campaign, so that's a very important one for Democrats because that's the most Democratic in terms of Kane percentage or Northam percentage, however you want to look at it. That's held by a Republican. And we need to remember it's 21-19 right now, Republican in the state Senate. So if we pick up one, and it's kind of funny, I was at the Elizabeth Warren rally last night, and Delegate John Bell was speaking, and he asked the crowd, how many more seats do we need to pick up to take back the state Senate? And most people said two, who answered said two, and he was like, no, one. Well, because we have the lieutenant governor.
Right.
So I guess in terms of organizing the state Senate, there were questions about what the lieutenant governor can vote on exactly, but this is getting in the weeds here. But anyway, I'd say we need to pick up two. So the next one is Senate District 13, which is in Loudoun and Prince William County. Dick Black, who's arguably the most far-right member of the Virginia General Assembly, is finally retiring to be with his grandkids or whatever, and I hope he has a nice retirement.
We all do.
And a long one, whatever, but just don't come back into Virginia politics. But anyway, so that one, that's not a primary. Delegate John Bell is going to be the Democratic nominee. There's no other candidates at this point there. So that's a big one. But Senate District 12, which went for Kane 57% approximately. Shobin Donovan, who's part of the famed Stolley family, if you're familiar with the Hampton Roads area politics, but she that's one we could win definitely. I mean, with a 57%. District that Kane won, and Northam also won that district. So that's one I'm going to definitely be watching on the Senate side. That one is between Delegate Deborah Rodman, who decided she only was elected just in 2017, and she decided she was going to run for state Senate now. And so she's vacating her House seat. And there's another candidate, Vina Lothe. I hope I pronounced her name right. But so the two of them, I think Rodman's the favorite in that one from everything I'm hearing, but that could be close.
Vina's been running for quite some time.
Yeah, she was running longer, and then there was some controversy over Deborah Rodman getting into the race because there was some feeling, at least being by some activists and others, that it wasn't right for them to. Vina Lothe had been running for a long time. And there was another candidate, too, I think Marcus Jones. And, they'd been running for, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was, and a year. And, it felt like the party was coming in a heavy-handed manner.
Big it, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really, from talking to a bunch of people, I don't totally buy that. But, I mean, I could see where that comes from because I've seen the party do it in the past. Or parts of the party. It's not a monolithic party.
Right.
But I've seen elements of the party do that in the past. So, but anyway, so that's a very interesting one too. And those are probably, I guess, there's also in Senate District 7, longtime Republican Senator Frank Wagner is finally, well, actually, he's not retiring. He's been appointed to the lottery board.
Right.
I mean,
that's a good deal.
You gotta love how Virginia works.
Yeah.
So he's going to be the deputy director of the lottery board. So he's leaving. And that's a district that went 54% for Northam in 2017. So that's a winnable district now that the incumbent is leaving. It's an open seat. And we have 3 Democrats running there, so I'll really be watching that one closely. Delegate Cheryl Turpin, another one just elected in 2017.
One side or the other.
Yeah, and then 2 other Democrats, Susan Hiffen and Kim Howard. So that's another one to definitely keep an eye on. That's just a few. I mean, I can keep going on. I mean, with the Senate side even, there's if you want to go, I don't know how much time we have, but there are even others. Senate District 17, Bryce Reeves district, Senate District 8, which is Republican Bill DeSteff, whatever, and Senate District 11, Senator Amanda Chase.
This race is just something else.
So there's 2 Democrats I'm really interested in. I've endorsed Amanda, the other Amanda, we'll call her, the Democratic Amanda Pohl, Pohl.
I had Amanda on my radio show a couple weeks ago. She's great. She's just great.
I love her. I think she's fantastic. I endorsed her. I've known her for years. She's been a progressive activist and democratic activist for many years for women's reproductive freedom and a lot of other things. And it couldn't be more of a contrast to Chase, who is strongly against the ERA, strongly against women's right to choose, loves guns. She carries one on her hip, in the Senate chamber.
And loves to intimidate our police force.
Yeah, and likes to yell and scream and curse the Capitol Police. Yeah. So, speaking of nastiness in politics. But anyway, and then there's one other candidate running there, Wayne Powell, another Democrat. So that's a primary between Pohl and Powell.
So do we think Pohl's going to clinch it?
I think Pohl, I support her, but I also, just purely putting on my analyst hat, I think Pohl is likely to win. One thing, I think you've probably seen this too the last couple of years. Like in 2017, when a woman ran against a man in a Democratic primary, or women versus men, plural, a woman almost always won. And in 2018, we saw the same thing in the congressional primary.
Right.
Whether Spanberger, Wexton, Luria, Vandy Williams, just go on and on with this. You can, it's never ending.
We could say, the future is female.
I think it's turning into.
Well, it's here.
Right now it's still the U.S. Congress is, not 50% female. It's still got a 51 or whatever it is of the population. It's still got a ways to go, and it's getting more diverse too on the Democratic side as well in terms of racial and ethnic and all that. So,
let's move to the House. Let's move to the House because I want to come down and get enough information in here so we can then come back to some local races too. So let's go to the House of Delegates.
Right.
What are the top three?
So the House of Delegates, I think, probably the top one is, this isn't a primary, but Shelley Simons is going to be the nominee. That's the one that was drawn out of a bowl.
Right.
That's HD House District 94 down in the Hampton Roads area. So she's not the delegate only because of, first of all, shenanigans by Republicans, I would say.
Yes.
She should have won that race. I think she did win that race. And then it came down to drawing out of a bowl, and Delegate David Yancey ran. Now, there's you probably heard about this racial packing lawsuit that is still in the Supreme Court. I don't think they're going to overturn it, but we have new district lines in these, quote, racially packed districts that were declared to be basically unconstitutional. And so that's one of them. So now that one is a 58.5% Kane district that Kane won in 2018. So that's one we should be able to win. Same thing with the 40th, Tim Hugo. That's a 58% one. That's not a primary either. That's Dan Helmer is going to be our nominee there. HD 28.
Dan Helmer's been working this for quite some time. He should really have a good shot at this, don't you think?
Dan Helmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Helmer ran for Congress for the congressional nomination in the 10th congressional district in 2018, and raised a lot of money. He didn't win. Jennifer Wexton won it, but he ran a good race, and so we'll see. HD 28 is a fun one. With Bob Thomas just came out and basically said the Alabama law was he liked it, or it wasn't even extreme enough, or something like that.
I just don't get some of these guys that say this.
Right, so, I'm thinking that race now is potentially winnable. I always thought it was potentially winnable, but now I really do. Joshua Cole will be our nominee there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other ones. So, those are top ones that... I'm very interested in the primary this is a purely blue district, but I'm just very interested in this. In the Charlottesville area, Delegate David Toscano, who was the House Democratic leader for years, is retiring, and there are two women running. Women, so the theme again.
Right.
Sally Hudson and Kathy Galvin, Kathy Galvin's a city council member, I believe, in Charlottesville. And so Sally Hudson got $100,000 from one wealthy donor, and David Toscano, I think it's fair to say, has not been particularly happy about that. But whether that's played into his decision to retire or not, I don't know. But that's a very interesting primary. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that one. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I mean, there's just so many. Another one is this is another blue district. Very interested in it though, and House District 38 is a Falls Church, sort of Alexandria Fairfax area. But Delegate Kay Corey has a strong Democratic primary challenger.
You really think it's a strong challenger? Really?
Well, from everything I've heard, he's running a very strong campaign. He's got a lot of endorsements. They're knocking a lot of doors. They've raised money. I mean, that's an interesting one there. And she's been in there a long time.
Been there a while. Not too long, really.
Well,
I mean, a while. 10 years, 8 years, whatever it was.
Yeah, so we'll see about that one. That's an interesting one. A couple of others before we stop. On the Democratic, more blue districts. On the Senate side, I just want to go quickly back to that. But Barbara Favola and Nicole Merlene's an interesting one, potentially. I think Favola's gonna win, but it's an interesting one. Because I live in Arlington in part, too. And then there's Dick Saslaw, who's the Senate Democratic leader, is being primaried. So this one's to keep an eye on, at least to see what percentage of the vote, if he doesn't lose, what percentage of the vote his challengers get? Yasmin Tayyab and Karen Torrance. So those are just some. I mean, we could talk for hours about. There's so many interesting races, really. Like, in Virginia, I'm sure I've probably forgotten a few here already, House of Delegates ones, but those are some. To sort of whet your appetite, I guess, maybe. One more, I guess, House District 87. That's the one John Bell, who is running for state senate. That's the one he's vacating. That's Loudoun and Prince William County, 64% Northam District, so totally safe blue. But there are 4 candidate Democrats there. These are good names, by the way. Suhas Subramanian.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably mangled that. Hassan Ahmad, Akshay Bamidapati, and Johanna Guzman. So there's
better you than me pronouncing all those names.
Right. So 4 candidates there. That's going to be an interesting one to watch on election night, too.
Now, Suhas has been running for a while on this. I mean, do you think he has a big advantage, or do you think Johanna Guzman coming in as the woman? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Suhas has been running for a long time. He's gotten a lot of endorsements. He just got endorsed by Loudoun County Board Chair Phyllis Randall, which is a good one in a district that's heavily Loudoun County. So he's gotten a lot. Hassan Ahmad has raised a lot of money, running a very strong race, too. I don't know much about Akshay Bamidapati. And Johanna Guzman, so she's the only woman in a field of 3 other male candidates.
I will say I know she's an Emerge grad, so I'm just glad that she's getting out there.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, if she can communicate with voters, and that's really the key with a lot of these races. Remember, these odd year elections, quote unquote, are very low turnout generally, and particularly low in the primaries. Which, this is one of my pet peeves, but people don't get it. Like the primaries in a lot of these districts, that's the election.
That's the race, exactly.
That's it. Like if you don't vote in that, you can bother voting in November. I'm not going to ever discourage someone from voting, but the election's over. In a deep blue district or a deep red district, whoever the Republicans nominate in the deep red and whoever the Democrats nominate in the deep blue is going to be 99% chance.
Right.
Whoever is going to win in November. So,
have you thought at all about how, and I'm trying to, in my head, count the number of these women, but I think it's 3, but maybe it's more than that have just were elected in 2017 that are this year either changing seats, so they've never been reelected, or they're looking to run for statewide office.
Yeah, well, I mean, Turpin and Rodman, Cheryl Turpin and Deborah Rodman we talked about. Jennifer Carroll Foy she's running for re-election, but she's definitely talked about for statewide office now. She just started up a PAC.
Yeah, I just got her. She's right before us on the show here, where she talks about her PAC and she talks about kind of how she came to where she is. I think it's interesting. There'll be discussions about this. Can we look to, as we look even more forward to the next statewide election for our state offices, who is better qualified at this point to mount a winning campaign?
Right. Well, so right now, in the last week, I think it was, we had two sitting incumbent Democrats, one in the Senate and one in the House, both named Jennifer, Jennifer Carroll Foy and Jennifer McClellan, both formed PACs.
Yeah.
Announced, formation of PACs. So, and they're both widely rumored to be potential and maybe even likely 2021 statewide candidates.
And then we see that Mark Herring, embattled Mark Herring, is out raising money again.
Yes,
right?
He is. Yeah, I mean, he seemed to be of the three, north of the three big ones, Northam, Fairfax, and Herring. Herring, I think, had the least. Almost no one. I don't think anyone called for him to step down. Whereas almost every Democrat called for the other two to step down.
Right.
What he did was really minor. I mean, 18 years old in a frat party or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't think he suffered much.
Except, I will say this. He called for Northam to step down when he did the same thing.
Well, similar. Basically.
Right.
I agree. I mean, so that's
there's some sort of hypocrisy there, which kind of sticks in my craw. But let's go local before we run out of time here.
Yeah.
We talked about some of these races. For example, Fairfax County, the Democratic nominee will most definitely, unless something changes dramatically, become the new chairman of the board or chair of the board.
Right.
And this race has been kind of quiet. We've got Jeff McKay, who has the backing of all the power the party structure.
Yep.
The second to get in was Ryan McElveen, who has run statewide, who has run countywide as a school board.
At large school board.
At large school board.
McElveen, yeah.
McElveen. Did I pronounce it wrong?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
One of us did. I probably mangled it earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had Tim Chapman, who is a low-income housing developer who I've done some work for, in all fairness here, and has headed the Virginia Low-Income Housing Development Authority, which I've always forgotten the name of it. And then the last one is Alicia, which I cannot pronounce her last name.
Alicia Clare-Hoplis.
Clare-Hoplis, okay.
Yeah,
so we've got four.
Professor, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we've got, but on paper, Alicia should be doing very well if you take into account we've talked about all these women coming out. Yeah. She has credentials out the gazoo in terms of education. She is an African American woman. So if we talk about just demographics right now that people are looking at, she should be. Yet, I don't know that we believe that, and it's been kind of quiet until just recently when these allegations of I don't know that anybody said it's, but allegations of impropriety or looks bad.
Right, definitely. There's definitely some smoke floating around with Jeff McKay, who is a sitting, supervisor from the Lee district, which is in southern Fairfax County, has been accused, I guess is the right word, of some sort of pay-to-play or some sort of sweetheart deal on his house that he bought from a developer in his district that he's friends with. So, I mean, this is floating around, broke in WAMU the other day, and then in the Washington Post, and there are dueling legal memos out there.
Here's what I say low on this. If you have to hire an attorney to explain something, then clearly there's something wrong here.
Well, the other's been, pages and pages and pages. I mean, I'm not sure if there's nothing. I don't know why you can't just say there's nothing there. Yeah,
that's my point. If there's nothing, there's nothing. Why do you have to hire an attorney to then go into a lengthy explanation?
Right. But then what they did was they went point by point and from the original memo pretty much and rebutted most of them. Some of them they said were accurate, but maybe benign type of things or whatever they were. But then they went through and rebutted most of it, or at least in part rebutted it. So I don't know where this leaves us exactly right now. I mean, how much of an issue this is going to become. It was definitely in the media.
Right.
Whether it appears in people's paid communication, the other candidates' paid communications, whether it resonates with voters, whether they think this is a problem and it hurts McKay. Because McKay is widely assumed to be the front runner, I think. And the establishment pick, as you said. I mean, the chairman of the board, current chairman, Sharon Bulova. And this is the way it's worked in Fairfax County, by the way, for years, where it's like the current chairman basically kind of hands the baton.
Yep.
to the next chair. And this is important. I mean, Fairfax County is 1.2 million people. That's like, a good chunk. It's like 1/7, I guess, whatever, if my math is correct, of Virginia's population.
Yeah,
huge.
And bigger than a lot of states.
Yeah, it's bigger than some states, and it's a huge economic engine as well. So it's very important. County is a huge Democratic bastion at this point, too. So, in terms of turning out statewide votes for statewide candidates. So, and it's a majority, close to, if not, maybe even a majority-minority county now. It's become very diverse. Fairfax County is a fascinating place. I mean, it's a mix of urban and rural, very diverse, different parts of the county. So anyway, well, I'm not really sure. And with Alicia Claire Hopla's in there, so you have, again, one woman, one minority against 3 white guys. How does that work?
Yeah, I don't. Well, it should say that Alicia, but then I have heard some stories, and I've watched a little bit of this. It hasn't been, her campaign hasn't seemed to be that impressive. A little bit more lackluster than I thought it would have been. But I got to go to one more thing. We got like 1 minute left. This Loudoun County Sheriff's race, which I've seen you've had on your blog, is this fellow Justin Hanna, who's running as a Democrat who's never even been a cop. And I say that because I've had 2 cops in my family, against a longtime sheriff and cop, Chris Harmison, yeah. And, talk about getting nasty.
Yeah, Harmison, I guess, Hannah people put up some video of Harmison at some sort of NRA thing, they were saying, giving away a gun giveaway, I think, or something like that. But then Harmison denied that that's what it was, and he said he went in his official capacity. So this has been going back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, Hannah's a young guy. I think he's maybe not even around 30 or something. Low 30.
Well, but here's the thing that gets me with this guy is that he, and I don't really know either of them, but, having had family members that were cops, our community security is important. And frankly, I think you have to look and say, if there's an emergency, who do you trust? Do you trust someone who's been a long-time cop, or do you trust someone coming in who can't even put a blue light in their car right now?
And just actually, now that you said that, just very quickly on the community security issue, there are 2 really hot races that we did not talk about, and we really should have, but Commonwealth attorneys races.
Yeah.
In Arlington Falls Church, that's one, between Carissa Tofty, the challenger, and Theo Stamos, the incumbent. That's a really
Who's going to win? We got 30 seconds. Who's going to win?
I still think Theo's the favorite there. And then in Fairfax County, but you never know. And in Fairfax County, we have the incumbent Ray Morrow is being challenged by Steve Descano. And note that both the Tofty and Descano campaigns are being funded by a PAC that's basically funded by George Soros' group. So it's interesting. I like George Soros. He's,
who's going to win in Fairfax?
I think, again, I would say the incumbent Morrow, but you never know.
Lawfeld, Blue Virginia, thank you so much. We're running out of time, but I really would love to have you come back after the primaries.
Okay, great.
So we can then talk again how we move it. Thanks so much, and for coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks.
This is Susan Platt.